from New York, everybody. It is the last weekend of 2017, so obviously I had to do another box office prediction video, and I also had to redeem myself a little bit from last weekend. My rankings weren't all that off, but some of my numbers most certainly were. Star Wars: The Last Jedi came in at number 1, but dropped far more than I expected, only taking $71.6 million for the 3-day weekend. Then it was Jumanji at number 2 with $36.4 million, Pitch Perfect at number 3 with $19.9 million. Then we had The Greatest Showman at number 4 with a disappointing $8.8 million, and finally Ferdinand holding on to that number 5 spot with $7.3 million. Downsizing only managed to take a little under $5 million, and that turned out to be only good enough for number 7 on the charts. I'm going to redeem myself this time around, though, or at least I hope. It is another holiday weekend, and I do have a little trouble with those, so just a reminder, these are 3-day predictions, not full holiday weekend predictions. Let's get right into it. My number 5 this weekend is going to be Ferdinand. Ferdinand has been holding on pretty strong, and this weekend might put it in even better shape than it was last weekend. What tends to happen this weekend is that the percent changes go up, and as an example, look at last year. Moana wound up seeing a 42% increase. Then Sing had a 22% increase. I don't think Ferdinand is going to see a bump up that high, but it might wind up with a 15% increase, and if that's how things pan out for it, it's going to get another $8.5 million. Moving on to number 4, that's where I have The Greatest Showman. So yeah, The Greatest Showman didn't have the biggest start ever, but with that A on Cinema Score, plus the fact that everyone I think is still in the holiday spirit, I know I kind of am, and I really do want to see Greatest Showman again, so with that in mind, I do think this is going to be one of those movies that sees a bump up and not down this weekend. Maybe something along the lines of 10%, and if that happens, it's making another $10 million this weekend. Moving on to number 3, and that is where I have, yet again, Pitch Perfect 3. So yeah, that $19.9 million start for Pitch Perfect 3 certainly pales in comparison to the second movie's $69 million start, but if you put in what the movie has already made overseas, it is creeping close to that $45 million production budget, which is good, and this weekend it should hold on pretty strong with those percent changes coming down. Just taking a quick look at Passengers, which came out the same time last year, and then this exact same weekend last year, it went from making $15 million to start, and then actually went up 8.7%. I don't think Pitch Perfect 3 is going to see a bump up, but it's going to see a really, really little bump down, maybe just about 20%. And if that's how things pan out for Pitch Perfect 3, it's going to post about $16 million for its second weekend in theaters. Now on to a big one. At number 2, I've got Jumanji. I'm really excited to see how things pan out for this one because it's performing really well to start, and things are going to maybe improve this weekend, and I actually think it might have a slight chance at catching The Last Jedi, which is kind of incredible, maybe falling just behind for the 3-day weekend, but I'm going to look at the movie Sing, and I know Sing and Jumanji, 2 different things. One's animated, one's an action-adventure movie, but bear with me for a second. So Sing opened up the same weekend Jumanji did last year, and it opened with roughly the same amount. Looking at this weekend that we're talking about right now, though, it wound up increasing its profits by 22%. I don't think that Jumanji is going to increase that amount, but I do think it might go up 10%, and if that's how things pan out for Jumanji, we're looking at another $40 million for this movie, which is a great second weekend out. Now on to that number 1, I still have Star Wars: The Last Jedi there. So clearly, I have found predicting Last Jedi numbers a little challenging, and I think the same might wind up happening here. I mean, we are talking about the second highest opening at the domestic box office ever. So right then and there, I have very little to compare it to. And then on top of that, it is falling faster than Force Awakens and Rogue One. So it makes those comparisons difficult, but I gotta use them right now. So with those 2 movies, this same weekend, the years they came out, that drop, that percent change came down. So for Rogue One, it came down to 22.5%, and then for Force Awakens, it only fell about 40%. Part of me wants to increase that 40% for Last Jedi just because I've had higher numbers than it's actually made the last 2 weekends, and I don't want to do that again, but The Force Awakens at this point in his run had a lot more to lose, so I actually think I'm going to keep The Last Jedi's drop to 40%. If that's how things go for it, it is making another $43 million, and that might be enough to top Jumanji and take #1 again. So to recap here, I've got Star Wars The Last Jedi at #1 with $43 million, Jumanji at #2 with $40 million, Pitch Perfect 3 at #3 with $16 million, The Greatest Showman coming in at #4 with $10 million, and then Ferdinand rounding out the top 5 with $8.5 million. There you guys have it, my last round of box office predictions for 2017. You know what I like you to do. Hit that comment section, share your list right there, and of course we got one more box office prediction Patreon shout out to give to Jimmy and Lewis. Jimmy and Lewis have been with the campaign for a little while, so guys, thank you so much for your continued support. I hope you're enjoying the holiday season. I hope everybody is out there. I've got some more content coming your way before the end of the year, so keep an eye out for that, and I will see you real soon.